Joined GMAC's ag team in September of last year as our market development lead and is working with our team to support the Winfield United portfolio of products and deliver training to our customers through sprayer clinics. She also focuses on working with the team to plan the Ag Proof trial program and bringing the newest innovations to our growers. Amy has been in the industry for just about 20 years and has enjoyed the journey so far. She lives in Hanley with her husband and her 2 boys, where they run a cattle operation. Welcome, Amy.
Now on to my agenda. So what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to talk about Adjuvants in the past, so where we were. I'm going to talk about the present, where we are today, and also a little bit about the future and where things are going. So when we think about Adjuvants, an adjuvant is a material that's added to a tank mix to aid and modify the action of an agrochemical or the physical characteristics of the mixture. And really, it's what you're adding into that tank to make sure that it's improving herbicide performance, that mixing and handling, effectiveness and safety, and better distribution. So I'm going to go through a little bit of history, and it worked out really well. A couple weeks ago, someone had sent me a link to look at the history of adjuvants, and it was a big, long presentation that was really, really interesting. So I'm just going to touch on a few of them, but I'll go through the history of non-ionic surfactants, crop oil concentrates, and methylated seed oils. So adjuvants have been around as long as pesticides have. And over 200 years ago, they used tar and tree sap, actually in fungicides with grapes. And before the 1900s, they used soap solutions from fish and whale oil. And in the 1900s, they were using animal proteins in lead arsenate, which was an insecticide on orchard trees. And then they started using glues from animal bones as stickers. And so basically what they were using was contact herbicides that needed to have good contact. So when we look at the non-ionic surfactant side, so they've been around for decades as well. And they started out as detergents and soaps. And in 1965 was the introduction of paraquat. And with paraquat, of course, you need coverage with it. So they found that the detergents and the soaps were anionic, so they were reacting, and they needed something that was non-ionic. So that's when Chevron came out with the American colloid, which was the first non-ionic surfactant. And of course, Roundup spurred the increase of that as well. And when we look at some of the first oil adjuvants that were introduced into the market, they were discovered in the 1950s, and that was in the use in atrazine. They found that it worked better for that application. And what they first started using was diesel fuel. And it was readily available and it was cheap. But the issue with diesel fuel was it needed a lot of agitation to stay in solution. So they started using some refined motor oil, and they found that it worked. They're still having a little bit of a problem with it. So then they discovered that a little bit more refined motor oil that had a 1% emulsifier in it solved that problem with mixing and not having that crop injury in there. And then also when we get into the 1970s, there was an oil and gas shortage that had happened. And that's when they discovered that they needed to overcome that, and so they increased the emulsifier load in there, which was less cost and handling that came with it. So the industry standard became a 17% emulsifier and 83% oil. And then we moved down the journey to our methylated seed oils. So our methylated seed oils were a newer technology that was introduced in the 1980s. NDSU researcher, he was doing studies on using crop oil as adjuvants to replace the older technology. And the reason being was there was a large production of sunflower happening in the Red River Valley in North Dakota. It was quite large, so he was trying to find a bit of a market for that. And then through his research, he found that it didn't matter which crop you used. Other crops worked, like soybean oil. And of course, through all that research, they found that MSOs worked very well at penetrating, so getting through that waxy leaf layer. And it worked very well for killing hard to control weeds. But of course, they work really well, so they have to make sure that we're using them at proper rates and in the right conditions. So that's a little bit about the adjuvant journey. There's actually a lot more to the story when you really dig into it. So that's just a little snippet because I only have so much time to spend with you guys here today. But it's interesting to think, in 1976, there were only 3 pesticide labels that recommended adjuvants: paraquat, atrazine, and Roundup. So, we've come a long ways where, you're at 500 plus now that do. So it's quite interesting to look at that. And, even as we get into the 2000s here, we're looking more at those HSOCs, which is our high surfactant oil concentrates. So just a little bit of history for you guys to see where, history has come and to now. And, just to kind of recap, we've got our non-ionic surfactants, which is for that, coverage and spread on those leaves. We've got our methylated seed oils, which is that newer technology for that penetrating into that leaf surface. Same as the COCs, but it's the older technology with being petroleum. And the other 2 that I'm actually going to cover a little bit more later, because these are really important this year, is that falls under that adjuvant category is water conditioners and drift deposition agents. So I will cover those a little bit more. So where are we today? So research continues to happen, and new innovations come to us in this space. And one company that we work very closely with, partnered with, is Winfield United, and they have their own proprietary blend of adjuvants. So part of my role is spending a lot of time with Winfield, really digging into that space and understanding them, and in return coming back to our team, so they in return can come to you guys with the new knowledge that's coming out with them. And they're agronomy nerds just like us. We like to make sure that agronomy comes first in everything that we do, and that's why you guys are going to hear a lot more about adjuvants as we continue to move forward. They're a distributor and a big retail partner with us as well. And the other really interesting part to Winfield is they do have an innovation center at River Falls. And at this innovation center, they've got greenhouses and they've got wind tunnels, and they do so much research down there. And they've got 2 spray analysis systems, and one is one of 8 in the world, and it simulates real-life environments when you're spraying. And the second one is the only one in the world that they have, which is actually simulating aerial applications. So they're actually looking at different nozzles. They've looked at 500 different nozzles throughout this facility, and they're also testing those adjuvants that go through there as well. So they're doing a pile of work. So it's a great company to be partnered with because we're able to get all that knowledge to bring back to you. So this slide is just going through some of the Winfield products that we have today. And the other thing I want to point out is PMRA breaks adjuvants into 2 classes. So they've got the activator adjuvants, which is our surfactants and our oils. And then there's the utility modifiers, which is our drift and deposition agents and our water conditioners. So our activator adjuvants have to be registered to be able to be added into that tank with other pesticides. Whereas our utility modifiers, they can pretty much be added into anything. So you guys have heard me say, talking about adjuvants, you guys are going to hear a lot more as we move forward. This is an important piece when you guys come to the shed and you're looking for that product that's going to have the solution for you out in the field. We take a look at what's going on in the environment. So we're going to take a look at the humidity. Where is our temperature? What is our soil moisture? What are our weed sizes? And is there anything else we're putting in that tank? And what we do is we take a score. We get a score, and it'll tell us, if we're able to, or which way we should go. Should we add a non-ionic surfactant or an oil? So basically, there's some pesticides that we're using, herbicides we're using, where you can use either or an oil or a non-ionic surfactant. Some you can't. Some have to have an oil because they work better with an oil, or they work better with a non-ionic. But some do have options that we can use either or. So we're really paying attention to what this environment looks like for us, because here's an example. Here's Marshall Kozilpa, and this is one product that actually we have a choice where we could pick either a non-ionic or an oil. And so what situations are we looking at when we're doing that? I kind of went through the card there, but basically when we look at a non-ionic surfactant, like a high activate, we use this when weeds are small, growing conditions are optimal or wet, and our crop is rapidly growing. So hopefully this is going to be next year, and we don't see a year like we did last year where, oils would have made more sense because, those weeds were large, the crop was growing slow, it was dry, it was hot. You know, those where those oils come in just to be able to penetrate through that leaf surface a little bit better. So we're really taking a look at the agronomy and what that environment is so that we can make sure you guys are getting the best product going out with you. And like I said, you know, when we get into those conditions like last year, and I talk about that waxy layer on the leaf, there's actually 3 layers that that chemical needs to get through. And the first one is the surface wax layer, and basically what happens when it's dry, that layer builds up. So now it makes it hard for that herbicide to get through there. And then it needs to go through a second layer, and if those cells need to be hydrated in order for that herbicide to get in. So if we're into dry conditions, it's not going to be that easy again to get through that layer. And then the third layer, it actually isn't as bad to get through once it gets through these top 2. So just a little bit on, you know, when I talk about that waxy layer on the leaf, that's what I'm talking about. So, you know, why do we need adjuvants? Most pesticides have some sort of adjuvant system built in their formulations, you know, for wetting, sticking, absorption, but they can't put everything into that jug, you know, to overcompensate weather, water quality, any other pest challenges we may have. So, you know, we need to make sure that we're paying attention to our adjuvants because not one size fits all. We need to make every droplet count. So when you guys are heading out there, we want to make sure that you guys are getting the efficacy that you need out of what you're spraying. So I said I was going to come back to drift and deposition agents. So what these do is they reduce drift, they improve that coverage, and then also they help get into that canopy. And you know, when I think about products like this, you know, I think about coverage products. And one coverage product this year would be glufosinate, Liberty. You know, making sure that you know, we're getting that product, it's a coverage product, onto those weeds that we need it to, and not drifting and moving on to another field as well, because we know Liberty likes to move. So just paying attention to products like this, because even in today's market, with where things are at, we need to make sure we're getting the most out of all of our actives. And at GMAX, we have a product called Interlock, which I'm sure you guys have heard of and have used some on your farm as well, but this one works well. The other one is water conditioners. You know, we really need to pay attention to our water, and hard water has cations in it that can interact with certain actives, and one of those would be glyphosate. So glyphosate will interact with cations in hard water, so once that interaction happens, what it does is it turns to a rock. So when you go and spray it, your plants, as Winfield likes to say, don't eat rocks. So then that isn't going to get into your plant to do what it needs to do. So you need to make sure that you know, you're testing your water. GMAX has done an awesome job of you know, testing water. They've got books at each location that have the different water sources there. So you know, if you haven't done a water test, do one. And if you have done one, bring it out, look at it. Because the reason being is, here's an example. You've done a water test, and when we send them away, it comes back and actually tells us how much AMS that you guys need to add into that water to condition it to overcome those cations. So this water test shows that you need 1.25 E of Crimson, which is a product that we use through Winfield, to overcome that hardness in that water. So yeah, Crimson, you're spraying at 5 gallons. So we look at the total cost, and this is using a 0.33 liter of Transorb, because maybe that's what the rate shows that is going to get the weeds that you're after. You're at $6.04. Versus, you know how in the past we've all just done glug, 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 I'll just put some more in there, no big deal. And this year it's actually going to cost you more money just to add more glyphosate than treat your water. So that's why I mention this. That's why I say dig out your water tests. If you haven't done one, please do so. Talk to the locations, get them done, and we can make sure that you're going to get the most out of what you're going out there to do this year. Because I think it's important with the price of glyphosate and where things are at today. So price may vary, of course. And Crimson's our product. So, you know, we talk about these adjuvants, and that's where it leads into the unpacked strategy and the advantage of it. And at GMAX, like I said, agronomy comes first, right? So we want to make sure that everything that we do and send out with you guys makes sense. And that's where this unpack strategy works well, because we can tailor what you guys need based off of your conditions and your farm. Adjuvant at either, we all know that you're spraying at different water volumes, and you've had extra adjuvant sitting in your shed. Just kind of a different way to look at it as well. Nothing is being wasted. And this is just saying all your applications need some sort of adjuvant. So whether it's free burn to desiccation, you know, every application needs one. So we can help you out to figure out where all that needs to go. So where are we going? Well, we're into that post-patent era. As of today, you know, there's about 91% of the actives that are off patent. And in 2024, you can see there's some more coming off there. It'll be in the high 90s. And the reason that I bring this up is, you know, as we got into that glyphosate era, our investment moved away from herbicide traits into fungicide and seed treatments. And there's more and more coming off, so there's going to be more and more opportunity to do some more tailoring as we go with the certain actives. And then we will see more come into 2025 as well, but it's going to be a ways away. So we need to make sure that we're putting those right adjuvants in with those actives before we start to see some more, and make sure that we're getting what we need out of them. So just on a, you know, when we look at Winfield, you know, they've got some new products that are going to be coming out into the marketplace as far as adjuvants go. Master Lock, it's pending registration. I hope that I can maybe talk to you guys about it today, but I can't. I got a little bit of a slide on what I can say, but you know, there could be some new ones coming out in 2023 on some drift agents, possibly, if it makes sense. Some oils, you know, the technology just keeps advancing as we go. So, you know, like I said, we work with Winfield and some of their adjuvants, and it's just going to keep moving along. And when we look at the U.S. Actually is a little farther down this path than what we have been. And the reason I mention this is because that list probably didn't look like it was very big when I showed some of the ones that will be coming down the pipeline. But the registration process takes a lot longer in Canada. So it's not quite as easy just to have something enter into the marketplace. They are going to come, but the U.S., they're a little bit ahead of us in that space. But they are seeing more regulations on their end too, just due to the soybeans and some of the issues that they've had with dicamba. And the other thing too is we're going to see some, you know, new innovations come in, because there's certain, you know, like you look at NPE, which is in certain adjuvants, it's surfactants, but the issue is it's a carcinogen, and it's bad for aquatic life. So we're going to see, you know, that probably be eventually banned here, because it is actually banned in certain countries right now. So we are going to see some newer technologies come in as we move, and that's where, you know, when we look at Master Lock, like I said, I can't say too much because it's pending registration, but it is actually a drift agent with a non-ionic surfactant in there that is MPE free. So we're really excited to see this one come in, and we will have some product this year at trial. So you'll hear our staff talk a little bit more about it as soon as we'll be able to share more once registration comes through. Jeremy likes to call me the sprayer table lady now. So I've been out doing a couple sprayer clinics. I've got Martin Carr with me from Winfield touring around as well. And I've been having fun doing it. GMAX actually has their own sprayer table that we're able to take out to the locations, and we can even take them out to your guys' farm if you want to take a look. We can play with some different nozzles and just take a look at you know, any questions you may have that you know, are regarding your farm and your operation. So we do have the options to do that now, so if you guys are interested, please let your locations know. And times have changed. The other thing Jeremy said when he asked me to do this, he's like, you've been in the industry for a long time. You can talk about the history. And I'm like, oh, thanks, Jeremy. I feel a little old. But he's right. You know, when I first started in this industry, you know, we didn't pay as much attention to adjuvants as we do today. Which is, it's good. You know, it's exciting. It's exciting to keep learning and growing through all of this. And yeah, so it was, you know, pretty simple that, you know, back then it was just, here's your jug, and the odd one had some adjuvants that went out. But anyways, so yeah, we're really excited to go down this path with you guys, dig a lot more into this, work with our industry partners on where some of the adjuvants we're using work as well, and yeah, excited to bring you guys some more knowledge as we go.